excited today to be able to bring you for the first time in 100 years some music that has gone unplayed and unheard in boxes. I'm very excited to be able to bring this back to life with this fantastic group of musicians, and we have a group of vocalists here who are going to help us out. I think without further ado, let's listen to a little bit of the opening of Act 1, the chorus. This is called We're Working in the Picture Game. This music with you. This is the music that I spent 3 years of my life putting back together for my dissertation. I spent a year and a half taking all the music that was in parts and putting it back together to be able to hear again and to be able to study. If you see over here, the music here is by a young man named Sigmund Romberg. This was his very first show. He was much later on, he became very popular writing operettas during the 1920s. He's a name probably all of your grandparents know very, very well. So, and Harry Carroll, who wrote the song By the Beautiful Sea, did some of the music in here as well. Harold Atteridge did the lyrics and wrote the script. This was called a Revue. Many people know of the Ziegfeld Follies. Well, this was the big competitor to the Ziegfeld Follies. And so, unfortunately, we cannot have the 70 chorus girls on stage here that they originally would have had. But I think we will have some performers doing some of the songs, the solo parts from the songs. So we're lucky for that. But it was a huge production. There were usually somewhere between 100 and 125 people who were in the original production. And yes, this production was in New York City. And if we can have the next slide. It was actually here at the Winter Garden Theater. Now, if you look here this is a postcard from 1916, and there's a little sign that says the passing show of 1916. Can't really see it up there. But there's a flag, and that is the Winter Garden Theater, and that is the theater that is still standing there today. For a long time, it had cats, and now it is the home of Mamma Mia, which is playing there now. But it is still the same theater that was there. And once these shows would finish in New York, they would run for about 3 months in New York, and then they would pack up, they would take a number of train cars and hitch them up, and they would go all the way through the country performing these shows. And yes, they did actually come here to Minneapolis. They were here in May of 1915. They brought the passing show to the Shubert Theater, which is still standing in downtown Minneapolis. So it actually did play here. It was a huge show and a big success. It ran annually from 1912 to 1924, with a few little blips after that. So, and if you can see down here, it's kind of interesting. You can see the horses and the buggies along with the streetcars on cables, as well as automobiles. Talk about traffic problems. Must have been a nightmare. So, can we have the next one, please? Here's an ad for the passing show of 1914. This was put in the newspaper for Buffalo. I thought it was a mock-up advertisement. So, but as big as a 3-ring circus, and that is absolutely true, was a huge, absolutely huge show. So, the next one, please. And what we just played here, working in the picture game, was about movies. And the movie industry had just begun. And in California, they were starting to gather together in a town that just about a year before had been christened Hollywood. The name of the town had been there, but the idea that movies came from Hollywood is really from about 1913, so a year before this show. And this is, you can see a whole bunch of women in white there. Those are actresses. It's hard to see on the side, but there are some gentlemen in suits and some women sitting down at typewriters. And they all would have been spinning and churning at the same time during that opening act. They would have been singing along with that number. And the joke was, of course, why on earth would you want to go see a movie when you could come to the theater and hear us do this? Because in the theater, at the movies, they were all silent. And they would be until 1927. So that was the joke. Why on earth would you want to go see a pantomime when you could come to the theater and actually hear some music? So next one, please. The next song we're going to do is called On a Modern Wedding Day. And an exciting thing that happened in 1913 was the introduction of the gymnasium. The idea of going to exercise began in 1912 and 1913. And I was very lucky in my research, and I found this cartoon hidden among Harold Atteridge's things. This cartoon was the inspiration for this scene and this song. They talk about eugenics, but it's not what we think of as eugenics now. It was the idea that if you were fit, you would look for another fit person, a person who went to the gym to get married to. And so this was from Life magazine in spring of 1914. And David, if you would like to join us, this is a song called On a Modern Wedding Day. means that this is a particularly exciting moment, is that you are the first group to get to hear this put back together in its original form. This orchestra, outside of a number of, we have about three, actually at this point we have only two extra people, but otherwise this is the exact original size of the orchestra in the pit that would have been in the pit in 1914. So this is it. I mean, this is the original sound. What's remarkable about this is they never recorded music with the original pit orchestra. So we don't have any recordings of this material at all. For the most part, they threw this music away. They never thought that there would be a revival of anything. They thought, all right, it's the next year. We're going on to the next and the next. We'll never hear this music again. And so, however, the Shubert brothers, who were the biggest producers in Broadway at the time, were absolutely terrified that people would steal their music. So they held everything and they kept it all for themselves. They put it away they had it bound, they put twine around it and put it in brown paper bags. The paper was wrapped in packages and it was put away. And it was that way, it stayed that way until the early 1940s when it was rewrapped. And I'm the one who cut the string on the music quite in, I guess, 2008 is the first time I saw it. I was very, very excited to be able to be there at that moment. What's so exciting about these shows is they're generally forgotten. And yet, these shows were the introduction of George Gershwin. His first song was in the Passing Show of 1916. Fred and his sister Adele Astaire made their debut in the Passing Show of 1918. Ed Wynn, who some of you might know as the uncle from the Laughing Uncle in Mary Poppins, was in the Passing Show of 1916. So Joan Crawford made her debut in the Passing Show of 1924. These were big events, very, very important. So, but they've been forgotten. I'm excited because I'm actually writing a book right now on this series for Oxford University Press, and I'm excited to hopefully that will be done within the next year. So, so this is the first time this music in this form has been played, and we're going to hear a little Oriental march here. Now, the last half of the first act. Now, I should say that this is a review. So there's no real plot. They just had one thing happen after the next. Now that didn't mean they didn't have characters who showed up repeatedly. Can we hear the next slide, please? Here are a couple of the stars. We have Marilyn Miller here on the left. She would become the biggest star of the 1920s and early 1930s. She is the Marilyn that Marilyn Monroe took her name from. She unfortunately died young from a botched nasal surgery in the mid-30s, so unfortunately. But she was very famous during her time, and this was her debut show. Over here on the left, yes, that looks like a rather boisterous French maid, but indeed, it's George W. Monroe. He made his living since the 1880s playing very loud, obnoxious Irish women. That was his, if any of you have ever seen Harvey Fierstein, I think that was an awfully good impersonator, George Monroe. He's trying to look coy there. He played Little Buttercup, Queen of the Movies, was his character's name here. So, and the next one, please. Over here on the left, we have Bernard Granville, who would have been the one who sang On a Modern Wedding Day. He was the handsome leading man, and the leading woman would have been Josie Collins, a British import. Her mother was Lottie Collins, who sang in the 1890s Ta Ra Ra Boom Tie, was the piece of music that she introduced to the world. And so they played various characters that continued throughout all of this performance. So can we get the next one, please? So now halfway in the thing about the Passing Show was that it made fun of all of the shows that had been in the theater the year before. So that's why it was passing. It would move on to the next, move on to the next. One of the shows that had been very successful was a show called Omar the Tent Maker, based on Omar Khayyam, who Some of you might know of the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. If you don't, you should look it up. So, we have the original sheet music here on the left. Now, that's what Omar probably should have looked like. On the right here is Bernard Granville as Omar Khayyam, wearing what looks like a very poor Robin Hood outfit. I don't know if you can see the feather sticking up in his Robin Hood hat. I'm not quite sure why they decided to go this direction, but they did. So we'd like to play you the Oriental March, followed by Mr. David Deshane joining us for the song Omar Khayyam, which was the hit of the production. I think would have enjoyed probably the straw hat rather than the pointed Robin Hood one. But can we have the next slide, please? So here are a couple of the beauties that would have been with Omar on stage. Almost every one of these large-scale reviews had a harem scene, so they could get away with putting a large number of scantily clad women, and this counts as scantily clad. If you're in 1914, this is quite scantily clad. A number of women on stage. You can see the gigantic vases behind them there. So, but there would have been many more than this. This was just a small group. So, next one, please. Here, a couple years later, the chorus girls would be wearing even more elaborate costumes. This is a song called The Language of the Fan. We have China there on the left. In the middle is Egypt. And it was still seen as basically another country. On the right, that's Hawaii. So they saw Hawaii as a very, very distant place. So the chorus girls would eventually get very crazy outfits like this, becoming even more elaborate in the 1920s. So next one, please. So, and here we have a young woman surrounded by a number of men. She was playing the character of Lady Windermere. If any of you know the play Lady Windermere's Fan, it was one that was very popular this year, and she, there was a waltz that they played, which we're going to play for you now, and she would spin around with each one of these chorus boys individually as she worked her way through. Now this is called a hesitation waltz. So there's a pause, and then it goes back in, a pause, and then it goes back in. That is the hesitation that is actually there. So one wouldn't stop while you were dancing, of course, but it's that sense of excitement. It's supposed to add a little bit of excitement to the waltz. So, Lady Windermere waltz. Next slide, please. So one of the great joys of this show was that you could go to this show and you could see all of the other shows that you had enjoyed that year just raked over the coals. And one of the ones that was very sappy, it was about a young girl from Scotland who came over to the United States looking for her Scottish gentleman who had come here before her. Very, very teary-eyed, romantic, and they made merciless fun of it. It was called Kitty Mackay. And if you look on the screen here, you can see on the left, that was the original actress who was playing Kitty Mackay. And she was very sweet, everybody loved her. And so when Josie Collins, who was on the right, they created an outfit for her that made it look as much as they could like the original, so they could be as effective as possible at making fun of that show. And so one of the things that Kitty did in this show was she had a number of other Scottish ladies that she was always trying to get off the stage. They were all coming over here looking for their man, and she kept saying, go home, and trying to get them to leave. That was one of the jokes that they did here. So, so we haven't worked up the whole chorus. We don't have a huge chorus to do this with us, but we'd like to play you Kitty Mackay anyway. So this is Kitty Mackay. That's meant to be the bagpipes. if you didn't know, that is meant to be the bagpipe sound. So one of the things that is so exciting about this this orchestration is that the orchestration is just so alive with these songs. And orchestration is the art of choosing which instruments will play which tune. And what's so exciting about this is that because we have the original parts, we know what this originally sounded like. The orchestrations for this show were done by a man named Frank Sadler, who was the basically the mentor for a man named Russell Bennett, who was the orchestrator for a good number of Jerome Kern, a fair number of George Gershwin, and all of the Rodgers and Hammerstein shows. And he looked back at this gentleman here and said Frank Sadler was the one who taught him everything he knew. And so it's so exciting to get to hear this orchestration with those original sounds. So, can we have the next slide, please? Now, comedy was a big part of these shows. There were a number of top-rated comedians who were brought out of vaudeville and who were brought into, onto the stage to perform in revues. Now, these are both pictures from the 1914 show. If you look on the right, you see the woman there. That's George W. Monroe. And her regular sparring partner, which was Harry Fisher. You probably can't see this, but he has gigantic mutton chops. And he's playing a Russian man who is always looking for the woman with the yellow ticket. Now, originally this would have been a much smaller ticket in the original show. They made it this gigantic thing, of course. So they would do a bunch of slapstick comedy. On the right here, we have Teddy Roosevelt holding his big stick, and he is attacking President Huerta from Mexico. So they would make fun of politics. There would be politics in every one of these shows. In fact, you can imagine near the end of the tour of 1914, the orchestra conductor said he had to change some things. Originally, when the show opened in July, he would play, at the very end, he would actually play a medley of all the European anthems. And as 1914 wore on, because of course World War I began in the fall of 1914, he suddenly decided they should probably get rid of the German anthem in the midst of all of the other things. So politics and comedy were a big part of this. Now, we are very lucky here tonight to have a couple of stars of the vaudeville stage here with us who are going to come and read read some of give you a sense of the humor of the original production. So, David Squared, would you like to come on up? These are two gentlemen who one is an actor and the other one is a poor. Here we have an actor and a poor orphan boy. So at least in the show, that's what they would have been. But mostly it was an opportunity for them to do the wisecracking jokes that they have. So I'll give the stage to them.
How you doing, folks?
Do you gamble?
No. When you gamble, you go into bankruptcy.
How did you lose your money?
I was a gambler in Wall Street.
What were you? A bull or a bear?
I was a jackass.
Do you owe much?
Yes. And I'll pay back 50 cents on the dollar if I paid out of my own pocket.
I want you to come to a birthday party at our house next week.
That's funny. We had a birthday party at our house last week.
You did?
Yes. My sister celebrated the 10th anniversary of her 20th birthday.
Did you have a good time?
Good time? I drank so much I got the BVDs.
Are you going out to the country this summer?
What's the use? June, July, August, September, and the summer's over. You know, I've got a sister in Europe.
Is that so?
I just got a cablegram from her.
What did it say?
I don't know. I'll read it, etc.
What does that mean?
I don't know. Either the wires are crossed, or she's getting married to the Russian count.
What What's your sister doing over there?
She's going to college. She's getting an epidemic education.
I've got a sister in college, too.
You don't speak the truth.
She is studying to be one of them persons who traces bugs, insects.
Oh, I know. A maid.
Don't forget, I want you to come to that party with me next week. I'll introduce you to a swell girl. Pretty, a lot of money, fine education.
What's wrong with her?
Why, nothing. She's a somnambulist.
What?
A somnambulist.
Oh, that's all right. She can go to her church, and I'll go to mine. I want you to meet me tomorrow night.
I can't. Gotta go to the armory and drill with my regiment.
Is that so? You know, I used to belong to the army.
Is that so?
Yes, I was a nut. Yes, you know, a colonel.
Do you know anything about military tactics?
Sure.
Suppose you're on a battlefield. There's a detachment of cavalry in front of you, infantry in the back, cannons to the right, and cannons to the left. What would you do?
You know, I'd probably give my 2 weeks' notice.
Thank you, gentlemen, so much. So, I think that gives you a perfect sense for the kind of humor that would have been prevalent in all of these shows. They were about as corny as you can possibly imagine. So, thank you. So, next, if we can go to the next slide, please. So, the next song we're going to have here is a song that incorporated two things that were very popular during this time. One is, strangely enough, the Salvation Army. So there was a character named Salvation Nell who was both active in sheet music and she was in some plays as well. And she was a woman who was just so thrilling that you had to go to church. She was just so much fun, and she had a Salvation Army band that she would take around. She is the character that the character in Guys and Dolls, if any of you have seen that, was based off of the character Salvation Nell. She wasn't the real person. She was an idea of the perfect woman to bring you into the church. Now, if we can go to the next slide, there are also a couple of other things that were going on at this time, and that is women starting to break the rules. Now, the first one we have here is the Midnight Girl. You see her there. This is on the left, and she works as a nurse during the day, but during the nighttime she turns into a fabulous cabaret singer. That's what she likes to do at night. She sings in the cabaret, and so that is one of the ideas at play here. The other one is that 1913 was the first year that the tango swept America. And it was brand new, and so one of the lines in the song here is about how exciting it is to do the tango and the opportunity you will have in heaven to do the tango all day long. So, if we could go back to the previous slide, please. There we go. Great. And Sage, if you would like to join us. This is Sage Vasek, and she is going to be performing You Can't Go Wrong.
Oh, you
that one work? There we go. So before we do this last duet, which I think is a wonderful duet and very important, I just want to thank a couple of people here. And of course, I've hidden what I want to thank all the way in the back. The first person I want to thank is hidden over here, Jane Wilson, if you could stand up for a second. So. Her tenure here as our arts dean, and we are so lucky to have had her. This is a wonderful way to say goodbye. Sitting next to her is somebody I don't think she knows very well. His name is Tom. Tom, can you wave a little bit? Right? Yeah. And they actually met. 2-3 years ago in the North Hennepin choirs. So this is a way for them to sing their way goodbye to North Hennepin, and for us to be able to play with them. So we're very, very lucky. I'm so thankful for everything that you've done. I also want to thank my fellow music instructors. I think we have some of them out here. Heather and David Mantini. And some of them, I don't see them, so they're out here somewhere. Oh, there's some waving hands around. So, and Carla, you're out there. Waving dirt. So, the last person I want to thank, we are very excited here to have community members as a part of our orchestra. I am thrilled. This is a combination of students who are here and a number of community members who are a part of this too. And one person I have to thank for this is Samantha Lee, who is sitting over there. Go and wave, Samantha. So she doesn't want to wave. But she came from Osseo and brought with her a number of fine string players, a cadre of string players, to join us. And if any of you know all of our groups, the choir, both the bands and the orchestra, were all looking for community members to join us. And so if you know any string players or any of the other groups too, we're all looking for people. We love to be able to serve the community and to work with the community and perform for the community. So we really encourage you to do that. And Sam stepped it up and made it happen. So we're so thankful for her and Osseo Senior High School Orchestra. So. The last thing I want to say, and then I'll promise I'll be quiet, is that we have in your programs, you may have seen an envelope there. We are just in the beginning of creating an endowment for scholarships in Jane Wilson's name for future music students here. And we would absolutely, I'm sorry? Oh, I thought I was wrong. Okay, but future music students here, so I thought I was being corrected from the peanut gallery. So, in any case, since we are, our programs here are free, I hope you will think about it like a small ticket and maybe put a little bit in there to help us out to create this scholarship. It is, the more we get in there, the more we can give students as an endowment. So there is a bucket out there. Please help us out. That's only going to be helping out the students that come here in the future. So I think it's time. If I could have Mr. and Mrs. Wilson join us. She would have been the female, and Bernard Granville would have been the male part here. This is the big love duet of the show, called You're Just a Little Bit Better Than the One I Thought Was Best. It's perfect, and it also is what we feel about certain people who we work with. So shall we? All right.
confess that I've met quite a lot of girls, and I've liked them quite a bit. Each one's charming style and winning eye appeal to me, I will admit. And I've said lots of things that I thought I meant till you came along my way, and that I knew they wouldn't do. Now do I have to say, you're just a little bit better than the woman I thought was best. Just the things you say in a different way, but you're far above the rest. Now when your love is a cold love, and the things that you have left, you're just a little bit better than the woman I thought was best.
I can say that I've met quite a lot of boys, and I've liked them more or less. And there were a few that I liked too. I guess I might as well confess. And I thought that my heart never could respond to difference my bed. But I was wrong. You came along. You are the best.
One more time. It's a pit orchestra. What are you gonna do? And then I promise we'll let you go. But Jane needs her surprise first. Stand right here, please. Now, every once in a while, when you're the only person in the world who's writing a book on the passing of Joe, you run across things that you didn't even realize you have. And so I am very pleased and honored to present Jane with an original piece of sheet music of You're Just a Little Bit Better Than the One. Thank you everybody for coming. We have refreshments out in the lobby, and hopefully we'll see you in the fall when one of the featured pieces will be spring. Oh, spring! I'm sorry. It's the fall semester, isn't it? I'm back in 1914. So hopefully we will see you in the spring, in May, when we will have our next concert featuring one of our own in a very important moment. So thank you very much.